He's doing better than I could on those things. I tried them once just to see if I could do it. I can't. That's really tough. That's a lot tougher than they make it look. All right, I'm going to go ahead and let Brian get our internet started. I'm going to ask, does anybody know what kind of house this is? What they're called? Anybody know? I'm a little surprised. I figured Steve would know. No? This is what's called a Bini house. A B-I-N-I, it's Italian. This guy invented a process by which he puts a real heavy-duty balloon inside of it, and it's basically, they make paper mache with it. They spray on concrete. They put rebar and everything. They spray on concrete, and they think it's possibly the answer to the next modern, or to this housing crisis, because they can produce a small one of these for about $3,500, according to what I read in the internet. Now I know concrete's gone up, and I kind of question those numbers, just running them in my head. But roughly, they think that they can make these for really cheap compared to a modern house. Roughly about $20 a square foot is what they feel they can do these for. But when you look at it, it doesn't look like a home made by human hands. And I was thinking about that verse, about that we have a house not made by human hands. Now I'm going to tell on myself today. Okay, I'm being transparent. Let's not judge John. All right. So this week, I've not felt the best. I've had a cold. But I also let it tell me that, I'm just hurting too much to be able to do anything. I'm doing this. And I was talking about, I was kind of taking my time with God yesterday in the most holy spot that I know of, which is mowing the lawn. I think that's because God knows that I'm quiet on the lawnmower and he can actually get a word in. And I'm mowing my lawn, and the impression came to me that the reason that I'm having trouble moving is because I've not given up my apartment in Mount Vernon. I'm holding on to it. It's convenient. I have options for dinner. I can go one of 40 places for dinner if I want to there in Mount Vernon. In the morning, if I'm just feeling lazy, I don't have to leave till 5 minutes before I have to go to work. And I'm having trouble letting go of what's been in the past. Now, of course, I'm sure if your minds are moving like mine is, you're seeing the spiritual implications of what I'm talking about. See, I have a permanent home up here now. I have a place that I can go that's bigger, it's nicer, it's in a better neighborhood, but I can't see that for where I'm living right now. We have the same problem in the Christian world. We see this world. We see the earth. We see our neighbors. We see the people that we interact with at work every day. And we can't see anything past that reality. We dress for them. We mow our lawns because of them. We do all these things to please other people and to quote unquote fit in. But our home is not here. Our home is in heaven. And God's called us to live by his standards and not the standards that the world has set. Now, the world's standards slide all the time. I think we're all aware of that. And I'm not going to go into that because I'm not going to turn this into a political thing. But the world's standards slide. It changes all the time. You will never be able to please the world all the time. But God saved us, and he gave us a plan and a purpose, and it's up to us to be moving towards that plan and purpose. See, I've got a plan this week that instead of living in Mount Vernon this week, I'm going to live here and I'm going to work in Mount Vernon. After I get off work, I will go to my apartment. I will work for 3 hours, getting everything put together and moving it downstairs. And then I will bring it back to my house here where I will sleep. So I will remove the impetus for me to stay in Mount Vernon. We have that same ability in the Christian life. We can go to work here. We can interact with the people here. But we have to remember we live in a kingdom of heaven. We just haven't got there yet. And if we live in the kingdom of heaven, we're called to live better. We're called to live with a clear mind, with the ability to have compassion for people, with the ability to live as if we're not going to be here for longer. Now, one of these things is you all have agreed with me. I didn't know how this was going to go 4 or 5 years ago, whichever one it was. You agreed with me that it would be better for us to give away our Thanksgiving dinner than for us to have it together as a church. You made that thing. Now that's how kingdom people live. They're willing to make sure that others are taken care of before themselves. Let's go to some verses. This comes out of 2 Corinthians 5. And I'll be honest with you, Derek inspired me last week. In his last slide, he said, we are not home yet. And he told that story. I know you all have heard from me. And I was ribbing him about it. And just so you know, all pastors, most of their stories all come from the same sources. So every once in a while, we go over each other's material. But he inspired me when I read that we are not home yet. And I wanted to talk about that we're not home yet. It took the missionaries a bit that he talked about in that story to realize that New York was not their home. When they came in on that boat, it took them a bit to realize that New York's not their home. No, their home is in eternity. And when they get there, there'll be celebration. And this is that same vein. This comes out of 2 Corinthians 5. He says, for we know that when this earthly tent we live in is taken down, that is when we die and we leave this earthly body, we will have a house in heaven, an eternal body made for us by God himself and not by human hands. We grow weary in our present bodies and we long to put on our heavenly bodies like new clothing. There's some here that probably long to put on that heavenly body. When I was in the throes of my sickness on Friday, I pretty much wanted to be anywhere but in this body, because all this body could do was lay on a bed and not move around so much. And he was bored out of his mind, and he was about to go bananas. And nobody would answer the phone. But anyways. It says that these present bodies, we're going to put them off. But our problem is that the only reality we understand is in these present bodies. We think that this is the best that we get. But we're going to have a spiritual body that is no longer subject to colds, to the aches and pains, to the breakdown of joints, to hearts that give up on them, to all the different things that can happen to this body. It's a body not built by human hands. Because even the very greatest human hands that make houses, they start to fall apart. Houses fall apart. It's not meant for eternity. Now we see some castles out there, and they look pretty good for their age. But what you find out when you go to study, that there's been people that have had to add into those castles and fix them and preserve them. Those castles aren't going to stay together by themselves. All things will end. But we're promised that we will have a body that will never end. Paul goes forward with some more clarification on this. Next verse. For we will put on heavenly bodies. We will not be spirits without bodies. While we live in these earthly bodies, we groan and we sigh. And it's not that we want to die and get rid of these bodies that clothe us. Rather, we want to put on our new bodies so that these dying bodies will be swallowed up by life. We're ready to put on the groaning that we feel, the ache, and you see this a lot in older people, older than you all. They get tired of dealing with this world, and they're ready for that new reality. Now, when you're young, you can't even picture that. But I'll be honest, last week I told you that we were moving some heavy boxes. I was in some pain. I hurt. You start to realize that your body's not what it once was. It can't lift the things you think you can lift. But we're promised that we'll have a new body. And that these dying bodies will be swallowed up by life. It literally gets swallowed up by life. All the different things come in, they break it down, and they start the circle of life, and Elton John begins to sing, and that was from The Lion King, you know. I don't know, maybe when I'm sick I get funny, but anyway, sorry. Okay, let's go next verse. God himself has prepared us for this, and as a guarantee, he has given us his Holy Spirit. So we are always confident, even though we know that as long as we live in these bodies, we are not at home with the Lord. We've talked about this multiple times. He gives us the Holy Spirit to begin to show us how to live in spirit. That's why we never learn everything, because we are being perfected. We are being perfected till we get into that heavenly body. I've been reading a book. It's called Abba's Child. It's by Brennan Manning, and he talks about the idea that we have to practice just understanding that Abba is with us, that our Father is with us, and that he's not moved by the same emotions that we're moved by. When we feel ashamed of ourselves, when we come up short, we're so confident that God feels that too. And it adds a whole nother layer of guilt to our things, to our psyche. But the beautiful part is that Abba made us not for what we are now, but for what we're becoming. We've talked about how, as teachers, you can sit there and you can help that kid and help that kid. And you live with this hope that one day they're going to get it. But when they do get it, it's like the most amazing feeling. And I feel like that's how God feels with us. He has this amazing feeling as he's watching us grow in him. And the true thing about it is, just like that child who has that teacher, the teacher is in charge of being able to unlock that child's mind and put what they're trying to teach in a way that the child can understand. It's the same way with God, that as we lean on God, he begins to give us his understanding of what needs to happen inside of us. See, he didn't just say, get ready for heaven. He said, no, I'll teach you how to get ready for heaven. But there's no truancy officers in this life. There's no one to say, hey, why weren't you at school today? Why weren't you here? There's nobody like that anymore. They're not in this life for to get ready for heaven. He leaves it up to us. We have to tell ourselves to go to school. We have to tell ourselves to come be with the teacher and let him unlock who we are, who we're meant to be. I'm not the same as I was when I was 5 and sitting in Miss Wilkerson's class down here. No, I had teachers that poured into me. I had teachers that poured into me here. I became educated over here, but I learned about God right here in these very corridors. That's why it's so important to have teachers. And these teachers are representative of the ultimate teacher, which is God, who gives us his ways. It says he wrote them upon our hearts so that we might know him. But what is he doing? He's preparing us to live in his kingdom. See, our 70, 80 years that we get here, that's nothing in eternity. But what it's prepped for is how to live in eternity. Let's keep going. For we live by believing and not by seeing. Yes, we are fully confident, and we would rather be away from these earthly bodies, for then we will be at home with the Lord. Next verse. So whether we are here in this body or away from this body, our goal is to please him. For we must all stand before Christ to be judged. We will each receive whatever we deserve for the good or evil that we have done in this earthly body. You know what it is? Did you learn enough? Did you learn how to live in heaven? Did you learn how to stop yourself from wanting to murder that guy that doesn't know how to turn? Did you learn how to stop looking at other people's stuff and saying, I need that in my life, only I want mine to be better than his? If he has an F-150, I want the F-150 Platinum. If he has an F-250, I want the F-350. No, did you learn how to do those type of things? Can you rejoice with others when they get something nice? Or do you have to go out and try to match what they have? Have you learned to be sufficient in Christ? There will come a day for all of us in this room where we will be in the heavenly kingdom, and we'll have to learn how to be able to worship. Just like remember I've told you how I kept thinking that when I turned into an adult, I would suddenly have my life together. I would suddenly be able to remember all the things that I usually forgot on the table or something as I walked out the door. That there would be this transition period between John, the didn't care teenager, and John, the adult, who suddenly knows how to do life. But that didn't come. You know what? I had to learn to be an adult. I had to learn to leave myself notes on the things that I fall short at. I had to learn to put my keys, my wallet, and my what else is there? Phone, all together so that I didn't forget them when I walked out the door. In that same manner, we have to learn how to be worshipers, how to be able to be of the heavenly kingdom. That's what all this is about. That's what church is about. Now, it may be something different to you. You may be coming here because you like to talk to people. I know Claire mentioned that. There was a lot of air of excitement and people wanting to talk. Maybe that's why you come here. That's okay to start, but it should go deeper. Just like they didn't send me to the school so I would develop a social life. They sent me there to learn. That's what this is all about. We're learning how to be heavenly members. One of my favorite lines in the Old Testament is this one. Joseph is at the end of his life and he's telling people what he wants. What needs to happen now. He's been a great man in Egypt. Revered as second only to Pharaoh. But Joseph says, soon I will die, Joseph told his brothers, but God will surely come to help you and lead you out of this land of Egypt. He wouldn't for 400 years. He will bring you back to the land he solemnly promised to give to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And then Joseph made the sons of Israel swear an oath. And he said, when God comes to help you and lead you back, you must take my bones with you. See, Joseph wasn't an Egyptian. He's our first example of somebody who may have prospered where he was, but that's not where he was from or where he was going. See, Joseph helped the Israelites as much or more than any of the patriarchs that they all called on when they were telling their children how to behave. See, they all called on the God of Abraham, the Isaac, and Jacob. But Joseph saved his people when they were at their worst. And he wanted them to remember that he was not an Egyptian. Though he took on a new name, he took on an Egyptian family, he was not an Egyptian. He was a child of promise. He was an Israelite, a child of God. And he said, I want you to take my bones to God's land that he gave his people. And you know what? They did it. It supposedly said that Moses himself went and got his bones and took them back because his great grandfather made a promise to Joseph. This is Joseph's tomb. It's in Nablus on the West Bank. This is where he's buried. Also this week, just random facts. This is the sidestep from all this. We actually know where the tomb of the patriarchs is, which is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And it also is a tomb in Hebron. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. If you ever want to see it, it's kind of a neat thing because you always think, oh, do these people really live? And they did. They still had their tombs there. But Joseph was buried back in Israel. He didn't stay an Egyptian. He was brought back as an Israelite. Now, years ago, I say years ago, not really that many years ago, I too decided that if I was going to be buried anywhere, I would be buried up in the Richardson Hill Cemetery. That was my goal, that wherever I was in the world, I would get back to Richardson Hill Cemetery. Now, being a child of the kingdom, though, I've come to the conclusion that I no longer need that body. That this is just a dwelling, and actually a dwelling of sin. So it doesn't matter where my body is, whether I'm here when I'm 80 and I go to the grave, or whether I die in China as a martyr. I'm not planning on going to China anywhere soon, don't get worried. Wherever my body is, that's where my body is. Because I'm not there. I'm a child of the kingdom and I'm in heaven. So you don't need to be worried about me. Have you made that same decision? See, this body represents the very tugs of sin that we all have. It's led to gluttony. It can lead to lust. It can lead to anger. It can lead to all kinds of different things, all because I have a body that I interact with the earth in. Take a think about that. That's a deep concept, that the reason that we sin is because of the bodies that we wear, and we're looking to make sure that our bodies have the best treatment as possible. One day I will put off this vessel of sin, and my heavenly vessel, the heavenly part of me, the spirit that's been dwelling here inside of me, will go up and receive a heavenly body. And I will fully come in and be a resident of heaven. Deep thoughts today. Stay with me. All right? Let's go to Luke. I had another verse in there, but I think I'm going to go this direction anyways. Now here's a story that's scary. It almost doesn't fit in the biblical account in our minds anyways. But Luke was careful to record Jesus' stories because, and we know this because Luke interacted with the Greeks. And the Greeks, they like to learn through stories. They like to learn through examples. So Luke was careful to come up with, to look at all of Jesus' parables that he told so that he could teach them to the Greeks, that they would understand to have coming from a learned environment. That Jesus wasn't just a man that went around healing people, but he was a learned man that was intelligent and brought wisdom to the people that he met. And Jesus tells this story, and it's a strange story. Because it's kind of a negative story. Let's go ahead and get into this. But it's about kingdom living. Jesus told this story to his disciples. He said there was a certain rich man who had a manager handling his affairs. And one day a report came that the manager was wasting his employer's money. So the employer called him in and said, "What's this I hear about you? Get your report in order because you're going to be fired." The manager thought to himself, "Now what? My boss has fired me. I don't have the strength to dig ditches, and I'm too proud to beg. I know how to ensure that I have plenty of friends who will give me a home when I am fired." So he invited each person who owed money to his employer to come and discuss the situation. He asked the first one, "How much do you owe him?" The man replied, "I owe him 800 gallons of olive oil." So the manager told him, "Take the bill and quickly change it to 400 gallons. Are you watching this? This manager is compromising not just himself, but his God, his employer. You know that man we call Lord. Lord. That's what we're talking about here. A man who served a Lord. Let's keep going. "And how much do you owe my employer?" he says to the next man. "I owe him 1,000 bushels of wheat," was the reply. "Here," the manager said, "take this bill and change it to 800 bushels. The rich man had to admire the dishonest rascal, which I love. I didn't know that they put this kind of wording in Bibles, rascal, for being so shrewd. And it is true that the children of this world are more shrewd in dealing with the world around them than are the children of light." Keep going. "Here's the lesson. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then when your possessions are gone, they will welcome you to a home." I was looking at the Greek of this, and that just means an earthly home. The eternal is actually used in relation to the fact that it's an or situation and not an and situation. Okay. "If you are faithful in the little things, you'll be faithful in large ones. But if you are dishonest in little things, you'll be honest. You won't be honest with greater responsibilities." Sorry, I was remembering King James. Keep going. "And if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven? And if you are not faithful with other people's things, why should you be trusted with things of your own? No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You'll be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money, to sex, to anything that you can be enslaved to. We all have our gods. That's why we're miserable, because we're trying to serve two masters. Now, many of us try to serve in the traditional sense. Let's not say us. Let's say a lot of the church world tries to serve the one master through the week, and then the other master on Sundays. And they wonder why they're so miserable. Let me redo this. Let me redo this story for you. The Lord had gifted a man with power and ability, and he chose to use that for his own personal gain. He chose to sell out for his own personal gain. Didn't choose to give what was God's. If he gave him a beautiful voice, he chose to use it to sing to the world. He didn't choose it to sing to the Lord. He was serving two masters. And he was trying, and basically what Jesus is saying here is that you can either work towards the best time you can have on this earth, filling it with money and everything else so that you can enjoy your time on earth for the 80 years that we get, or you can be with him in eternity because you learn to serve in your master's house. But notice, the servant was gone from the master's house. He was fired. It didn't change the fact that he did this. He still was fired. But the master admired him for at least setting himself up for the earthly life, as what this is talking about, so that he'd be able to enjoy a few good years before he would have to pay in eternity. These are hard things we're talking about today. I think the important thing is to realize I'm not here to point out to you what you're doing wrong. I just understand that. I'm not here to point out what you're doing wrong. I'm pointing out cautions. I'm that guy at the DMV or at the driver's education thing saying that if you run 85 miles an hour down the road, there's a good chance you will have a wreck. Now, it may not be the first time, may not be the last time, but one time something beyond your control is going to come out, and your wreck will be so much greater if you're running 85 as opposed to if you're running the speed limit. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm being that warning. I'm saying, think about why you do things. Are you doing it for your earthly home, or are you doing it for your heavenly home? Guys, I struggle with this too. It's tough. I have to decide. Sometimes I have to turn movies off because I can tell it's not benefiting me much. That's hard for me. I like movies. I've had to quit books because they just didn't go where I needed it to go. Guard yourselves, because you're not working for here, you're working for your heavenly home. Our worship team's coming up, and we're going to sing one final song, and then we'll dismiss.